let's look at Wanding's journey on a small Australian island, where we battle crocs, run from birds, build a community, and catch so many bugs. This is Dinkum, and we are playing for 100 days. We're transported to the island where we are dropped off on the eastern shores, the implication being to set up the town here, but we know better. Looking at the map, we are looking for an area with resources and pretty close to the middle of the island. So with our destination planned, we grab our base tent and leave our new friend Fletch behind and set off our new home. On the way, we make use of the resources on the ground, picking up logs, plants and fruits that'll be needed later, narrowly avoiding being eaten by a croc and being kicked by the native where we move bed. Eventually the hostile creatures lose interest and we can place our tent. As soon as we do, Fletch appears like a ninja, following us this whole time, invisible and useless. With the base tent established in the town, we are given a tent of our own, our home for the next 100 days, a place of rest and relaxation to see through the long, cold, lonely nights. We drop this off just aside of the base tent and place our sleeping bag down. Next we've got the visitor site. This is where wandering vendors and traders can test our settlement before deciding if they want to stay forever. Fletch gives us her father's journal and challenges to complete the tasks he completed and surpass them if we can. This will provide us with permit points which are used to purchase new skills, abilities and craftables. Finally, we're given a campfire recipe and a bug net and told to take the rest of the day off. So we spend the rest of the day getting to know our surroundings, catching some bugs. We visit the beach, see a weird monolith which is obviously created by aliens, collect some shells and butterflies before cooking some fruit and heading to bed. We're woken on day 2 by the message that there's a visitor to the island, John, our new resident trader and extortionist, selling all of the tools we could need but also buying the bugs that we can catch. We don't know what he does with these bugs and we don't want to know. Speaking with Fletch, she informs us about licenses and we immediately buy a mining license and an excavation license and a hunting license. With these new skills we can buy the tools we need to begin changing this world for the better. A table saw allows us to create planks from the logs we picked up from the previous day for more complex and interesting creations later. Since we need the visitors to like us, we can offer to do daily tasks for them. Each day, every resident and visitor will have a task for us to complete. Success will add 1/4 of a heart, failure will not be good. So we need to be sure that completion is possible before accepting the quests. John initially wants to sell us some copper bars, so that's an easy win. Fletch is still not done with setting up the town and now asks for a campfire, some stone and tin ore. Once he's handed in, Fletch tells us to build a furnace and start our metal smithing path. We use our newfound license points to buy the logging license, grab an axe and set back to work. After mining some tin ore, we have our bar for Fletch and she rewards us with some additional recipes and asks us to complete a task for John, which is a little late here as we've already done it. We craft ourselves a couple of chests, place them in our new crafting area. We sell some items to John, collect our new milestones. After a short mining trip we put together another chest and craft a spear to fight back against the cruel creatures that inhabit this land. We finish up our second day carrying out tasks and starting a long arduous process of terraforming the immediate area around the town to make it more habitable. By the morning of the third day the outside world is already starting to look familiar. We immediately speak to John to pick up the daily quest that we completed too hastily yesterday and we see that he quite literally wants a shirt off our back. Reluctantly we hand over our clothing in shame as John rewards us with a crafting recipe for a new fence. Now shirtless we speak to John again and he agrees to set up a shop in town and it costs us our dignity and humiliation, a small price to pay for the growth of our town. Speaking to Fletch, we have 2 deeds. We set up the bulletin board first as it's an instant build, immediately paying off the 10,000 ink debt that this board costs, then set about setting up John's shop. Once all of the items have been placed for the shop, we managed to grab our first thunder egg, which just spawned in by lightning hitting the ground nearby. The rest of day 3 was taken up with wildlife butchering, tree chopping, mining, terraforming and general busy work. John's shop has started its build process, but it will still take another night to finish. I don't know why the builders only work at night. Maybe it's a deal with the union. Who knows? We admired the thunder egg in all of its glory, then moved it outside the shop husk. For the daily task, John wanted a copper bar, which was quickly achieved, and a stylish armchair as our reward. Perfect for our tent. Fletch asked for some food, and we know she loves some raw bush limes, so another easy win. Before grabbing these, we spoke to her about licenses. We grabbed a trapping license to try and profit from the local hostile fauna, fishing license to get the dinks flowing, and a metal detecting license to start looking for buried treasure. Finally, we grabbed a farming license so the land cultivation could begin. We then continued our exploration of the local area with some bugs, barrels, shells and fruits. Returning to Fletch, she rewards us with the black tile path recipe for the daily quest. We then complete our daily minor milestones and cash in for the major milestones that we have accrued throughout the day. Remembering about the bulletin board, we can see that Fletch is now asking for some clothing too. She really is as bad as John. The reward is a cool pair of glasses and increased friendship, so we accept, strip another layer of clothing in the name of platonic friendship. At least I hope it's platonic, otherwise this could get really weird really fast. Now wearing nothing but hot pants and some round glasses, we venture back into the world, thankful that no one else has requested our second-hand clothing. Now time for some fishing. We start local and see what is living in the areas around the town. We take a haul back to the town and throw the fish on the campfire. They are still wiggling, kids, but don't worry, that's because fire tickles. Finish off the fourth day with some late night fishing, cooking and head off to bed. Fifth day gives us a completed shop, bringing our total number of building plots to 4. John asks us for some croco meat, which will mean crossing spears with some sharp teeth. We accept and head off to Fletch to see what horrors she has for us. After she compliments us a job well done on the shop, she once again requests clothing like we are losing a game of Strip Twister. Strip Twister is a thing, right? We give Fletch back the glasses she gave us yesterday, and her disappointment at not getting the hot pants is palpable. We're rewarded with a wooden lamppost, most likely so that Fletch can see our semi-naked figure better in low light. Pervert. After escaping the unwanted advances of Fletch, we seek out some wildlife to pick on. Realising the spear is weak, the fights are not as easy as we'd hoped, but victory was still inevitable. We headed back, cook up our rewards, and finally remembered to sell the thunder egg for 71,000 dinks. We then used that money to buy a stone grinder to make some cement, but also extract ores from the shiny rocks which we've been picking up during our time mining. We hand the cooked cocoa meat to John, and we get a new hat as a reward. Slowly we're being allowed some dignity back into this cruel land. As we don the hat and look far too similar to a character from American Dad, we head up and grab the fish we cooked last night. Combined with a couple of other items, we're looking at almost 50,000 dinks for our haul, which we then lose immediately by paying off the town debt, which is just under 75,000. After a day of moving dirt around one block at a time, we place a chicken coop and surround it with a fence, ready for Erwin to visit so we can buy ourselves a chicken. Before the sun sets, we place some wooden paths down to improve the look of our slowly developing town. Day 6 brings a new visitor to the town, Theodore. Theodore is a collector of bugs, fishes and critters. In our first conversation, he agrees to build a museum in our town, and a new deed is immediately unlocked. After we get acquainted with this excitable guy, he asks us to collect 2 tin bars. An easy task that doesn't involve us taking off more clothes. How can we resist? As we slept with 2 tin bars in our pockets, as you do, we handed them in immediately. As a reward, Theodore gifted us a sun hat, and while we appreciate more clothing, he can clearly see what is needed. Still, can't let a gift horse in the mouth, so we graciously accept. Immediately outside Theodore's tent, we see John skulking about suspiciously, so we ask him what he's up to, and he tells us he's looking for a copper bar. We agree to find him one on the basis that he stops being creepy. He refuses, but we look for a copper bar anyway. It was worth a shot. We return to the work area and start to smell copper bar for John. While we're waiting for the smelter, we go and talk to Fletch. She sells us some clothing, and while we are suspicious of her motives, we go ahead with the transaction. Checking the garments for strategically placed rips, we put on our new clothes and store the old ones for the next time we are daft enough to play Strip Twister with Fletch. Grab our newly smelted copper bar in our bare hands and head off to John. John provides us a fence recipe in recompense for our newly severely burnt hands. We sell our wares to John, making a small amount of cash, and place down one of the less common creatures, ready for Theodore's upcoming creature prison. Checking our tasks, we are gifted a small amount of license points and head into the great untamed world, collecting food and plants and other resources as we go. Witnessing a brutal fight between 2 creatures, we run in and steal the meat that was dropped, since a winning creature seems uninterested in it. After this, we continue our pursuit of profit with some metal detecting, digging up ancient treasures like CDs. And anyone who's used a CD will know how resilient they are to being buried in sand, and this will have 0 impact on them at all. The rest of the 6th day is spent collecting resources ready for the upcoming days. First week on this new island is greeted with no fanfare or celebration, just continuing the cycling of weird requests from residents. John's asked us for a less common butterfly, known as a grassy yellow butterfly. We accept and speak to Fletch, who's asked us for 6 gum logs, a remarkably simple request and a welcome juxtaposed to John's request. We grab the logs from a nearby chest and swap those for blueprints for a flagpost, something that we won't be able to craft for quite some time as it will need dyed cloth. We cook up the meat we stole yesterday and heroically attack a passive creature with our spear, cooking up the drumsticks. We check the map for the biomes of rare butterflies most likely to spawn in and head out, capturing the butterflies' brethren on the way. Reaching the pine forest biome, we begin to search for the creature, collecting fruits and snagging any winged creature that will fit in our net. We start to recognize patterns on these majestic bugs, and we now have 10 unique catches under our belt. Knowing what to avoid should shorten this search, but it's still a frustrating search. We come across a strange structure known as a telly tower, which is in need of repair. We make a mental note to revisit this later, as it feels like it might be useful. A scientist would be the most likely to be able to make use of these, but we are not yet run into one, let alone have one living in our town. We continue our search, shifting our focus away from the mainland and starting to check the local island, which sadly proves fruitless, and we return to the mainland once again to search for the singular item John has requested. Better have a good reward at the end of this. We continue to head south across the island, seeing many butterflies with a blue hue, but none that are yellow. It is past midday by this point and we are worried the entire day will be wasted, but we continue on because the shame of failure is too great. We return to the town to sell the butterflies we've discovered so far, keeping one of each for the museum. We buy a new bug netting, placing one of each species outside our tent to save on valuable pocket space. Once we are refreshed, we head back out into the lands and continue our search, knowing that we only have a few hours of sunlight left. We need to redouble our efforts and not get distracted. So we pick some bananas. After nearly a whole day's searching, we are rewarded by the little critter chilling out on the beach near a tropical biome. At last our search has come to an end, but the mediocrity of our victory is strong. I don't know what we're expecting, maybe a fanfare, maybe some fireworks, confetti. This is simply a reminder that we're alone on this untamed island, working on satisfying the whims of the townsfolk and nothing more. Maybe it'll be worth it when we return our prize to John. Maybe he'll give us immortal youth, or riches beyond our wildest dream, or some pants. The 8th day brings a new visitor to the island. We agree to catch a fish for John and run in to meet Clover, our new guest. Clover sells clothing, which is appropriate as we still don't have a shirt on our back. Clover's catalogue says there are no shirts or tops to purchase. Luckily we can see there's one on display. Trendy, fashionable item that will help us to be the trendsetter of the town. We purchase a checkered top, rocking those knitted diamonds in a way that only we can. 2,000 dinks is a steal. For only 2,000 dinks we are buying back a piece of our dignity that was so cruelly taken from us. We are now whole again, except for our naked feet. So we do the only logical thing and buy some strapped sandals. Not only will it protect us from poisonous wildlife, but sandals and a diamond knitted jumper are the perfect combination. Now that we are whole again, we ask Clover what she would like from us this day, and in a cruel twist of fate, she wants a grass yellow butterfly. After some deliberation, we reluctantly agree, giving Clover a perfectly normal, non-creepy smile while we leave the tent. Finally, we go to speak with Fletch. We upgrade our metal detecting to level 2 and start the deed for the museum. Running outside, our master plan for the town comes together with the thoughts of, this'll do. Taking note of the resources needed, we set about collecting the ingredients. Putting the table saw through its paces, we get our planks, use a grinder for cement and crash some nails from tin bars. Stone grinder is a slow and painful process, but John's shop is closed on a Sunday, so we're stuck with a single machine for now. While the cement is being processed, we speak to Fletch, who purchases some of the tin ore we have in our pockets. We don't ask how she knew it was in there, because we really don't want to know the answer. Once the cement is finished, we place all of the items in the construction box and leave it for the building fairies to finish over the span of 2 nights. Now it's time to catch a fish and find the butterfly we foolishly promised to the town residents. Firstly, we're looking in local rivers for the tadpole. This is where we were told it lives. Tempted to visually identify the fishes, we get a couple of different species, like the eel-tailed catfish, the barracuda gunter, a carp and a mangrove jack. It's at this point we give up and get a lucky find for the elusive grass yellow butterfly. The elation is short-lived, however, as we realise we are fishing in the wrong river. We're in the mangroves and we needed to be in the billabong. John did explain this to us, but obviously we weren't listening. We moved to the new location and plan to start our fish, but the croc has other plans. After 1 week and 1 day in this new land, we suffered our first defeat. Through some poorly timed jumps, the croc gets the upper hand and we are left chewing dirt. While we are unconscious, the night fairies return us to our home and we spend the night recovering. As we start the 9th day, the realisation that all of yesterday's relationship gains are wasted set in. Not a big deal for John, as he already lives here, but Clover may not return for many days or weeks, and building that relationship is the only way new residents will move in. We speak to Fletch, who gives us a new long-term task of raising the number of residents to 5, as this will give the settlement the legitimacy and allows us to call it a town. Fletch asks for a river bass, but for the first time we refuse. We have more important tasks to complete today, but before we do that we cook up some fish. We place down one of the species for the museum submission tomorrow and continue to cook up the duplicates. We sell the cooked fish, buy some replacement tools, as the croc apparently chewed on them for a bit after we passed out. We also buy a grill and a stone grinder for a more efficient crafting area, then set about completing the daily milestones. Today will be a day of organisation and future planning, chopping down trees and planting our own manual tree farm, meaning the local source of wood will always be available. We finish up the day by mass crafting planks and collecting bugs. On day 10 we have a new visitor to the island, but before introducing ourselves we have a quick chat with Fletch, who tells us about the bandstand she wants to have built. We explain this is not a high priority right now and just assume her age is affecting her judgment. We upgrade the logging license to allow us to craft copper axes, making it possible to cut down those more robust trees and chop through regular trees much faster. Now that we have our newfound skills, we're going to chat with the latest visitor, Erwin. Erwin is the animal guy, and after a quick chat he asks to buy some rupoo, which we have in our pockets. We are then introduced to Belinda, a baby chuck who is going to be the newest resident to our town. We exchange some dinks and Erwin says a tearful farewell. Once the chuck is safely in their new home, we set about museum collection, picking up all of the samples and handing them in to Theodore. In return for the unique samples we get 1,900 permit points. We then sell any duplicated bugs to John, as well as a jar of honey we picked up from a beehive yesterday. Realising Belinda would not have any food, we buy a feeder and a stack of food from Erwin before submitting one more bug that was missing from initial culling. With our newly crafted copper axe, we set out clearing the stronger trees that flank our town and stifle our growth. We use the points from the museum to level up fishing and animal handling, as well as animal processing and landscaping. Most of the 10th day is spent gathering resources and allowing the build of our own workbench. No longer will we need to sweat and toil under the weirdly watchful gaze of Fletch. Now we have our freedom. With this newfound freedom we create an animal collection point to allow for the delivery of wild animals to a research lab. We don't know what our dystopian home city will do with these creatures, but we are assured it's humane and complies with all legal requirements. In order to capture the animals, who will be treated humanely, we need to create an animal trap with some tin, mango sticks and an old spring we dug out of the ground. Place these traps adjacent to the collection point, as this will automatically transport creatures that wander into the traps, meaning we don't need to worry about upgrading the traps for hostile creatures like crocs, as they will be instantly transported. It's not a glitch, it's a feature. Waking from our little orange tent, we check the mail and see that Fletch has told us we are worthy of a new deed. We also replace the traps and continue our day petting our chuck and seeking approval from the townsfolk. John asks us for something to eat, Theodore wants some pan wood, and Fletch wants a fish. Throwing cooked meat at John and giving wood to Theodore, we take our rewards and head out to find Fletch's fish. We drop off some new fishy species to the museum, netting us another 100 license points. We upgrade the mining license. This gives us access to the copper pickaxe and unlocking access to the deep mine license, which will become important in the coming days. After crafting our broken picks into shiny copper versions, we grab some food and start to track down large stone nodes, as these have a chance to drop iron ore as well as copper and tin. We break up the monotony by grabbing some critters from the water and a few bugs and some treasure. After handing in the new critters, we sell off the leftovers and start our storage of commonly requested bugs. We end the day with some terraforming and sleep, knowing we had a productive day. By this stage, daily quests are becoming part of the routine. Working John to the point of giving us free stuff feels like the neighbourly thing to do. Theodore throws us a curveball by asking for milk, something we are currently unable to produce, so to avoid losing friendship points with him, we politely decline. Fletch asks us for another fish, and then we go and speak to Erwin in an attempt to convince him to stay. But Erwin woke up and chose violence, or extortion at least. He offers to sell us his helmet for 56,000 dinks, and we only have 22,000. We say yes, as this allows us to have the option to come back later if we manage to get the money together, and there is no reputation loss if we don't. We notice a scrub turkey sat in one of our traps and help it on its way to its very humane destination. This is a reminder to deploy the traps returned from yesterday for more humane animal transport. As we go for a swim, diving for critters, we come across a pearl. This must surely the cover cost of Erwin's helmet. Shortly after we're attacked by a local, and we use our now well practiced tactic of jumping in circles to avoid taking too much damage, all the while realising that our spear is garbage and needs to be upgraded soon. The rest of day 12 is spent fishing, and we return to provide Fletch with the fish he requested and turn in a new species to the museum. We cook up the rest of the fish, hand the quest in for John, sell the remainder of the fish. With our cash in hand, we speak to Erwin and purchase his helmet. A magnificent new addition to our wardrobe, something that will set us apart from the bland townsfolk who never actually change their clothes. No longer are we wearing hot pants and fearing Fletcher's advances, we are now leaders of fashion. Finally for the day, we send a croc onto its humane journey via balloon before building our first bridge on the island. Is a bridge necessary? Maybe not, but it's symbolic. It shows that we are here to stay and that this land will be transformed for the better. As the rain clears, the evening sun lights the town, and we check the notice board to see what our fellow residents are requesting publicly. Requests are not great, but it inspires us to create another trap for the humane transport of local fauna. We head off and trap one of the local creatures. Without taking damage, it easily escapes our flimsy trap. Not once, but twice. By the third attempt, the creature has succumbed to our spear and is sent off for humane research. With dwindling health and little else to occupy the day, we head off to the land of slumber to see what the dawn brings. Sporting our new shiny helmet, we head out into the day, collecting the humane research money. They sure are profitable considering how kind they are. We then continue the grind to friendship by collecting insects and handing them into people. We won't ask why this makes townsfolk so happy, we just accept that it does. Theodore is asking for more wood than previous. I suspect the last wood we gave him just didn't satisfy him. A friendly digger volunteers for humane research and shows us the error in our setup, so we fix it and hand in the gift of saw lumber to Theodore. Most of the day is spent hunting down Fletcher's uncommon purple azure butterfly. After handing in the required items and receiving our menial reward, we pass any new species to museum and then set about placing any unique creatures somewhere we can grab them when needed. We sell the duplicates to John and buy another grill to help with the cooking. We end the day with a therapeutic terraforming and wait for the sun to set. We've been on this island for 2 weeks now, 14 days of crafting friendships out of time and energy, 14 days of building, terraforming, and the town is slowly starting to take shape. We have crafted, cultivated and carved this land from a wild, unforgiving zone into something we can call home. There's still a long way to go, but it is progressing. We collect our other humane research money with zero guilt. It's humane after all, and we reset the traps. We go to meet Rain for the first time, who has come to visit our quaint town and offers seeds and farming equipment. We immediately attempt to strike up a friendship, but Rain asks for a coconut drink, something we've not yet discovered or begun crafting. We decline the request, but since we don't know Rain, we perhaps should have said yes and attempted this. Ah well, I'm sure Rain will be a regular visitor to the island. We purchase the essential farming equipment as well as the seeds we'll need to start our farming empire. Seeing that the tomatoes will last 2 seasons and continue to produce, we decide to double down on these. We check back the bulletin board and pick up various tasks for continuing through the townsfolk's random requests. Fletcher's the first to fall for our scam of hoarding insects and gives us a nice recipe in exchange. John soon follows as we have a grass yellow butterfly so almost within arm's reach of his shop. John gives us a mustard coat and we begin our weirdo pervert phase of our journey. After a day's worth of terraforming, we have a small enclosure for the first version of our farm. We set about planting a row of tomatoes and wheat, making sure not to make the mistake of blocking ourselves in with tomato sticks. We hand in a cooked cactus fig to Theodore, as these are his favourite, and he helps us complete our weirdo pervert look with some beautiful trousers. Now that we have a farm, albeit a small one, our daily chores have increased to include watering. At this stage we thought it should be done at the start of the day, but later realised that rain is our friend, and rain can happen at any point during the day. John asks us for fish and chips, which makes me think he's secretly British. We pass off our bugs to Theodore and hand over an armchair to Fletch. We need to pay for the town debt before we can build anything new, so drop some cash in the collection box. The morning was used productively, expanding the farm and claiming some of the river as our own. This allowed for more planting space, which would lead to more profit. Planting some more wheat around the tomatoes seemed like a good idea, but in later days we will see that it was not the best plan in the world. The town's borders were expanding by creating the path to the bridge which we placed yesterday, and this really provides us with a sense of growth and scale for the town. We are no longer confined by hills and dips, instead we can look at where we will move to next. Kite another croc to the humane research platform and send him on his way, after which we set about culling the local wildlife to prove we have what it takes to upgrade our weapon to something more useful. After starting a fight with a lizard, we realise we aren't going to win the fight and we're left with 1 or 2 health points to our name. Rather than trying to eat our way out of the problem, we decided good night's rest is a more logical solution. On the morning of day 16 we have a message from Fletch confirming that our previous day's culling had not gone unnoticed and we had unlocked access to a new hunting licence. As the saying goes, blood calls for blood. Erwin was also visiting the island and immediately bought raw drumsticks we had on our person. Another chuck was purchased, this time a Morelli, who would be chuck number 2 in our egg farm. Each chuck needs its own house and feeder tray, so go about fixing up this issue. Fletch then spotted a bee in my breeches and purchased that. John asked for fish and Theodore sold us some hideous glasses that perfectly matches with our helmet. We bought the camera on sale at the museum as some of the bulletin board quests require photos to be taken and the island is quite picturesque. We We were short on cash and needed a way to fix that, but first it was time to reap the rewards of our near-death experience from yesterday and upgrade our spear that will actually cause damage instead of just causing offence. Next up was a deep mining license, which will allow us to access a whole new world. It will be down under. After building a path to guide us to the Northern Ocean, we spent the first part of the day fishing and testing out our new spear. We added a new bridge to allow us easier access and retired for the evening. Not quite gaining the riches we set out for, but making some good progress. Fletcher reminds us just how far we have left to travel by asking us for a sausage roll. We politely decline as this level of culinary skill is currently out of our reach. The bulletin board has Theodore asking for a far more achievable goal of 5 copper ore, and John fails to disappoint by asking for a fish, which we have in our scam pile, immediately handing us over in exchange for a red light. Theodore asks for a pavlova, like the entitled git that he is, and we politely decline. If we can't make a sausage roll, this guy has no chance. Plant some more fruit trees and tend to our young farm. After some treasure hunting, we find ourselves a chunk of amber and return it to John to weigh and appraise, and John offers us nearly 50,000 dinks, so we go back and hunt for more treasure. During our travels, we find another chunk of amber and also set about repairing the first of the 4 telly towers with the treasure we've found. All 4 will need to be repaired to release their full potential as a viable method for getting around the map, but this is a good start. We manually return the amber chunk to the town and settle in for the night. The humane research grant pushes us over the 100k dinks mark for the first time in quite some time, so we drop the traps back down in the hope of more passive income. We pay off the town debt, leaving us with 2,000 dinks, and pick up a photo request from the job board. After this we chat to Erwin, who wants nothing but to fly. We return to the insect scam pile and hand it back to Erwin. As we casually hand in insects to Theodore, he thanks us for remembering his birthday, which we totally remembered. We hand him a gift and head out to weigh our amber, this time getting us over 50,000 dinks. We return to Erwin and buy our third chuck, Ashley, who will round out our egg farm for the time being. We build another coop for Ashley, ensure all the chucks are fed and loved, and get to work on the mine deed. We craft and collect all of the items and leave the mine for construction fairies to build overnight. Unsatisfied with the size of our farm, we add another row of crops and then put up our town's first street light. We find some crocs to fight so we can cook up their meat, and will give us a health buff before venturing into the mines. As we have another day until the mine is completed, we start off the day crafting some paths for John. Utilising our hardwood tree farm, we're able to complete this quest with very little effort. Before finishing it off, we give the chucks some love they crave and start sawing planks. After handing the planks over, John asks us for a cooked drumstick, a simple request easily completed. John provides us with a nice wardrobe and we finally get around to buying a wheelbarrow. On entering the museum, we see that Theodore has reset the creature count to 0. In a mild panic, we grab a random insect and try to hand it in. Fortunately, Theodore won't accept it, meaning that he must have just taken the bugs away for humane research or something. Theodore asks us for some clothing, which we oblige, and he hands us a red cap to replace our black helmet. We hand over the requested cap to Fletch and upgrade our inventory by 3 slots, allowing to carry even more junk in our pockets. We also add extra tool belt slot, making it 4 pieces of extra space in total. The wheelbarrow is put through its paces, shifting stacks of 10 dirt around at a time. Terraforming continued late in the evening, but the town was expanding. On day 20 we receive a mail from the fishing tipster telling us to go fishing after dark for the biggest fish in the northern oceans. We reset our traps, go through our daily routine, pass Erwin some second-hand clothes. He gives us a basket in return and we make preparations to enter the mine. With our mine pass in hand, we head down. We head out into the darkness with nothing but a torch, seeking out treasures and ores beyond imagining. This should be marvellous, magnificent moment, but something is missing. Something important has been forgotten. You see, the depths is home to treasure rooms that contained a chest filled with goodies, but in order to access the rooms, you need a key. Well, 2 keys to be exact. And our keys are safely secured in the chest next to our house. We cannot ascend to the overworld as that will waste the mine pass, so we continue through the mines seeking as much glory and profit as we can. Quickly meet one of the mine's pests, the bat. These fly above melee height and swoop down to attack, meaning the only way to kill them is to either hit them as they approach or jump stab them as if you're Brad Pitt's Achilles in Troy. A mine is a place you'll reliably find iron ore as well as the potential to find a ruby or 2. There are also unique creatures such as the bat, but also the new style croc that glows, and bush devils. You can outrun the crocs on foot, but the bush devils are much more persistent, so are the bats. If you are lucky or skillful, you can make them fight each other. Due to the lack of keys and our lack of rubies, we decided to end the first trip early. It was a disappointing trip, but memorable. We hand the glow bug into the museum, buy another mine pass, and sell plants and bugs we found in the mine. We build a cooking table and move our bushline farm to flank the town entrance. After this, it's time for bed. Feeling the deep mouth still ringing in our head, next time we tell ourselves next time will be different. Fletch informs us that our hunting skills are ready to be improved, but we don't have the 3,000 points needed to level them up, so we choose brewery instead in the hopes that we can drown our sorrows. Picking up the morning grind of watering, feeding, petting before working to absolve ourselves of yesterday's failure, we craft some torches and put the keys in our pockets. The keys. We must remember the keys. We grab the mine pass and head back underground. Immediately greeted by one of the locals, we ignore their snappy jaws and head off. We make short work of the local bats and get to mining. Our focus stays are locked rooms, but we grab some bugs knowing that 10 of these will cover the cost of the mine pass should all else fail. As we see the brick walls of a treasure room, we are forced to fight 2 of the locals. The croc tags out and allows us time to get around him. We open our first room and are met with some medical rewards, including a saddle. We grab the torches and head back out into the dark. We battle beasts by torchlight, dispatching another 2 bush devils as we delve deeper into the darkness. We come across another treasure room with a guitar and a hang glider. The hang glider is by far one of the most useful early vehicles, as it sits in the inventory and allows immediate deployment for fast getaways. The second room has a spear and some other resources. We grab the paint for the town aesthetic and once again venture outwards. Another bush devil asks us to dance while the bats continue to comment from above. We also ask them to like and subscribe, but most just need a spear to the face. At the next treasure room, it finally happens. We convince a glowing croc and a bush devil to fight it out and finish off the winner. We then grab the chest, swapping a glowbug for a fertilizer. Glowbugs may vendor for more, but fertilizer is more useful. 5th treasure room provides with a new shiny, an opal. This is the first opal we've found so far, but it won't be the last. We abandon the paint and pick up the chest and continue on. Taking the chest saves resources in the overworld, but it also is much more pleasant to look at rather than the crates we've been creating so far. Another bush devil, another half-beaten croc, and we find treasure number 6, another guitar, some fertilizer and some more ingots. We had made the decision to drop the fertilizer earlier in the cave. This was to replace it with a shiny stone. Was this the right call to make? Who can say? We continue through the depths, meeting another bush devil who's quickly dispensed. We see another croc winning a fight, so we step in to free the croco meat and continue mining. Room 7 offers more fertilizer just to really rub in the fact we haven't been picking it up. It also has more ingots and duplicate items that we have already acquired. The day is progressing and staying late in the mines is not a good idea. The night brings radiation poison. Although we didn't come across any rubies on this trip, we'll more than likely make up for that in a venture next week. For now, this was the first trip through the treasure rooms and we got to see what the caves had to offer us. Before bed, we top up the animal food, have a quick chat with the residents, test out the hang glider and then settle in for the evening. The next morning we were welcomed to a new visitor to the island. Now Max is Theodore's brother and he is here to hold the bi-annual fishing competition. The rules are simple. You get points for catching barracudas. So we sign up and grab a comp fishing rod as they have a higher durability than the standard rod we are using. We grab some food and head out to Northern Ocean in search of glory, utilising our newfound hang glider to get around more efficiently. We find a nice spot on a rock and begin casting. Barracudas are visually different enough that finding them isn't too much of a challenge. While hopping across various islands we find coconut trees for the first time, so stop to harvest some for later. By 3 PM we are feeling good about our catches and need to submit a score before the 4 PM deadline. Making it with only 20 minutes to spare, we can see we're dominating the only other person taking part. John. There are definitely some benefits to having a small town. Once competition is over, we take a moment to check our mail and see that yesterday's deep mine visit leveled up our mining enough that Fletch is willing to offer a new mining license. Sadly, we do not have the points needed and continue on with the day. We submit our newfound creatures to the museum and begin cooking up our catches for additional profit. Before turning in for the night, we plant the coconuts so that we have a local supply in the future. This will also prove an attractive entrance to the town. After completing a few quests for the townsfolk and inventory management, we have put an end to a successful day's fishing, basking our glorious defeat of John, who will always be second place to us, at least till next competition. The morning of the 23rd day provides us with a first place fishing trophy from yesterday's competition. The urge to shove it in John's face is high, but we resist. Checking on our chooks, we can see that we are now regularly getting 3 eggs a day, and we serenade them with a song from the guitar. This provides the same benefit as petting them, but for only 3 chooks it feels a little pointless. While checking on the farm, we are presented with the shame that last night while harvesting the wheat in the dark, the swing also took out some of the tomato plants. We'll need to be more careful with those going forward. John finally gives a reasonable amount of money when we sell him 46 cooked saltwater fish and we get 128,000 in return. So we use the money to upgrade our crafting area with a furnace and a stone grinder. Take a small chunk out of the $250,000 dink debt the town is currently in and get on with the day. John asks us for a fly, Theodore's wants some new threads and Fletch wants a butterfly we have been hiding in our pants. We head off to pick a fight with an alpha croc which goes a little bit sideways, so we head back to town, grab some food, to buff our HP before going back for round 2. Sadly, the Crocs had time to do the same and the fight starts over. Trees covering the terrain make this fight more challenging than usual. The Croc very nearly finishes off for good. Heading back to the village for food, something goes terribly wrong. The Croc follows us. We grab some food with higher HP restoration after tricking the Croc into doing its AoE attack, giving us time to find the right food and run. Croc is now damaging the Chucks, who to be fair are taking it like a boss, but we need him away and we need to fight in the middle of the town. This is a Croc's last stand and a surprisingly difficult fight is over. Chucks are still alive and happy and we can cash in our reward from Theodore. We spend the day collecting treasure and fishing, handing in a goatfish to the museum and cooking up the rest. The evening is spent more terraforming and expanding our farm. We chop down the fruit trees as they're being replanted elsewhere and expand the farm to the largest size we can be bothered to water each day. A fly right outside our tent is begging to be caught, so we oblige. We reset the humane animal traps, do some town cleaning and inventory management. Grab a thunder egg that magically appears outside John's shop and wait for him to realise he is late for work. We get the egg weighed and sell him the junk from our crate outside his shop. This influx of funds allows us to pay off the town debt and start construction of Erwin's shop. We go and chat to Clover as so far our interactions with her have not provided any hearts. She sells us 3 iron bars and we are now on our way to being besties. We place all of the required items for Erwin's shop and set about more terraforming to help with our OCD, but this time with a goal in mind. Wood path is placed to a specific length, almost as if measuring for something we can't yet build. So we chat with Fletch and buy the license that will improve our crafting area. It's time to move away from the dirt and work on a dedicated crafting floor. We will need more palm wood as we chop down our palm trees and create a palm wood farm before heading back out to rid the island of those pretentious trees. Who do they think they are, standing tall in the heat? As the time reads as late, we are still able to work, providing the task does not require energy. Crafting and laying floor apparently does not require energy. So throughout the night we work like construction fairies and lay more and more palm wood path, creating the area that will be the most efficient crafting area known to this island. Before we can drop down the windmill that will increase the efficiency of everything we do, somehow, we use the last bit of energy to create a platform for the windmill. It needs to look good after all. The windmill is down and we are exhausted, but the work isn't finished. Items still need to be moved from the chest and placed in the new area. The deep mine chests improving the look of the area because aesthetics makes everything better. We pass another thunder egg, too tired to even acknowledge it, and head to bed. As we reach the 1/4 mark of our journey in the land of Dinkum, we are met with no fanfare, just a letter from Fletch informing us that our logging license has been unlocked. We admire our work from the previous night, but only for a moment before heading off to meet the day. Some organisation is still needed, but we first need to rescue this jackaroo. The eggs must flow, so we cuddle our chucks and place all of the food into his new home. We sell our thunder eggs for 53,000 dinks and pick up some quests as John is very nearly at the 4 heart stage. John asks us for a fly and we grab one from the pile. We get a bandana, but more importantly this unlocks the recycle bin, item that generates a random goodies almost every day. We drop this by Fletch's tent, cross our fingers for some cool items tomorrow. We return in the evening to place billy cans down to brew up a variety of jams and drinks, most notably the yellow wattle flower and later the bottle brush plant. These will produce a tea that we can then place in a keg for maximum profit, although that will take time. We have a mill and some wheat so we can pass the flour to Fletch and get a quiche as a reward. We finished out with some flooring for the crafting area and think back over the past 25 days. We've gone from 2 tents to the start of a small town with a number of residents now either living or about to be living around the town square. The journey isn't over, however, it's just beginning and we need to convince more people to move in and improve the town, as well as living through the seasons and hardships this island is going to throw at us.